When I Fall by Scarlet Emerald 32. Chapter 38.
Talisa, can you at least give me a rough estimate of when you may be?
Do not come in here.
Talisa saw Eugene's shadow in the hallway from where she was standing facing the bathroom mirror.
I might point out that it is the height of ridiculousness for you to go to all this trouble, considering I'm estimating this entire process will take less than 10 minutes, start to finish, and I will be the only other person involved.
Eugene, no matter how quick or informal this is, it's still our wedding. I'm not doing it in my pajamas. Besides, fingers crossed this will be the only time you ever get married, and I'm sure as hell planning on it being the last time I do. So is it really too much to ask that you give me 10 minutes to dolled up a little before I become Mrs. Eugene Porter?
I suppose when you put it that way, having a modicum of patience is the least I can do.
Thank you, love.
She went back to applying mascara to her eyelashes, and she'd assumed he'd wandered back into the living room when he spoke again, clearly still leaning against the wall just outside the door.
Are you really intending to do that? Or was that simply an overarching wording to describe our impending nuptials?
Am I intending to do what?
You referenced you becoming Mrs. Eugene Porter. I was just curious if that was a figurative reference to the routine marriage tradition, or if you were in fact planning to take my name.
Talisa put down the tube of lipstick she'd been holding and looked at the doorway in the mirror.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I was. Is that all right?
On the contrary, it's more than all right. Frankly, I assumed, both with the nature of your independence and the deep sentimental connection I know you have to your current surname, being as it is one of the few remembrances of JP you still have, that you'd choose not to change it.
I mean, I'll be honest, I never really thought about it like that. It may seem a little old-fashioned to some, but I've always been a, when you get married, you take your husband's name kind of girl. So I never even second-guessed it. You do make a good point, though.
She sighed as she tucked the lipstick back into the small bag of makeup she'd scrounged up.
If I might offer an alternative. It seems clear that honoring both your previous marriage and our impending one are highly significant priorities to you. Bearing that in mind, how does the idea of hyphenating strike you?
Hyphenating? So I'd be, what, Talisa Prince Porter?
Or Porter Prince, whichever moniker you believe flows off the tongue more easily.
Prince Porter, I think. Your name should get the emphasis.
I have no disagreements as far as that is concerned.
Okay then, Mr. Porter, how about you go back out into the living room so I can come meet you and we can get the show on the road?
Yes, ma'am. I'll see you shortly.
Talisa smiled as she heard him retreat down the hallway and turned to look at herself in the mirror. She hadn't had anything white to wear, so she'd settled on a dark green dress she'd gotten over a year ago from Jessie. It was simple, with a flowy A-line skirt that came to just below her knees and long, soft, gauzy sleeves. Jessie had given it to Talisa when she'd been cleaning out her closet, insisting that the color was beautiful on her. Talisa had resisted, saying it was silly because she'd never have any occasion to actually wear it. She felt a small pang of sadness as she thought about her friend, wishing she could be here to see the occasion that had presented itself. Talisa took a quick breath to steady herself and shook out her nerves. She had no idea what she had to be nervous about in truth. She was just going to walk 5 feet into the living room and say a few words to Eugene that she'd basically already said over a dozen times. As she walked into the hallway, she noticed it was darker than when she'd entered, and the light from the living room was strange. It was flickering and unsteady. She stepped around the corner and her jaw dropped.
Oh, height of ridiculous, my ass, you little sneak.
Eugene laughed.
I'll freely admit that was a ruse to get you out here more expediently, due to my ever-increasing worry pertaining to fire hazards.
Eugene had filled their living room with candles, at least 100 of them. Talisa briefly wondered how in the world he'd gotten his hands on so many. He'd placed them around the fireplace mantel and on the coffee table and side tables, giving the room a magical glow.
It's beautiful.
I would have to challenge that assessment.
Eugene took her hand and pulled her close.
Upon seeing you in this dress, it's become abundantly clear that classifying anything else as beautiful is utterly and completely inaccurate by comparison.
Save it for your vows haircut.
She leaned in to kiss him lightly.
You want to go first? Since you're already raring to go, apparently?
My proclamation of your exquisite beauty was a simple statement of fact, not a bid to take top billing in this moment.
I'm fine either way. It's not like we had much of a formal structure laid out here.
You go ahead then, I insist.
Talisa took a deep breath and stepped back slightly, taking both of his hands in hers.
I know some people might raise an eyebrow to the idea of me mentioning my first marriage and my wedding vows, but I know you understand. And honestly, my past is a huge part of what makes all of this so special. When I met you, Eugene Porter, I had no idea how easily you were going to get under my skin and turn my world upside down. I'd been in love once, and I honestly couldn't imagine myself ever loving anyone like that again. And you know what? I was right. Because the way I love you is so totally different from anything I've ever felt before. You came crashing into my life, and it was like I never really had a choice. I loved you before I even knew it was happening. And even when I would have done anything to figure how to stop loving you, I couldn't. Being in love with you has been a wild, passionate, crazy adventure that has tested me and changed me in ways I never imagined. You are my best friend. You are the love of this new crazy life that I found. I used to think that soulmate meant the one person in the billions on the planet that was destined for you. Now, I think maybe what it really means is a person that sees down to the very core of you and loves you for exactly who you are. And if you're really truly lucky in this life, maybe you get more than one. The last year and a half of our life has been brutal, but you know what? I wouldn't change it for anything. Everything we went through led us here.
Talisa reached into the pocket on her dress and pulled out the ring Earl had made for her at Hilltop.
When I went to Hilltop last week, I asked Tara to take me to the field where everything went down with Negan. I got one of the bullet casings. One of the casings you sabotaged.
She looked up at him, smiling.
I figured, what better to make your ring out of than the thing that represents the bravest choice you've ever made? When you chose me, when you chose to be the man I knew you could, the man I'm honored and excited to spend the rest of my life with.
She took his hand and slipped the ring onto his left ring finger where it fit perfectly.
Eugene Porter, I know this won't always be easy. Nothing in this life is anymore, but you are the love of my life and my soulmate, and whatever this world throws at us, I promise to always be by your side, till death do us part. I love you.
Eugene smiled down at her, and she brushed away a tear as it fell from his eye.
Well, I'm not entirely sure how I'm meant to follow words as beautiful as those.
She smiled.
Just say what's in your heart. I know it will be perfect.
I've never been a man who is particularly adept at speaking on his feelings. In fact, in the moments that I have, I've found writing my words down to be a more effective way of communicating what's going on inside. Therefore,
He pulled a piece of paper out of his shirt pocket and unfolded it.
as I reflect on my life since the day you and I met, I find myself marveling at how much has transpired. The irony is not lost on me that many of the things I had previously accepted would never happen for me came to pass so easily I barely had time to register them. Yet other things I truly believed I would have no trouble conquering when the moment arose, ended up becoming some of the greatest challenges I've ever faced. I will not belabor my poor decisions today. I've covered that topic at length up to this point with you. Today, I want to focus on the good. For the majority of my life, I have felt distinctly apart. I have observed the relationships and intimacies others enjoyed. But there was always something about me, something intrinsic in my nature that seemed to make it impossible for me to share such a connection. That is, until I walked through those gates a year ago, and I met you.
He looked up from his paper and met her eye with a smile. She felt the tears threatening to spill over as he continued.
From the first moment you said hello to me, you saw me. saw me in a way that no other person before or since ever has. I have become accustomed to analyzing every word and action before I execute it, in hopes of avoiding any missteps in social situations, and ingratiating myself as seamlessly as possible. Though I admit on the whole I'm aware I'm not particularly successful. It has never been that way with you, though. From the night of our first conversation, I was for the first time in my life able to simply be myself. No pretenses or fears of misunderstanding, and it was the most freeing and grounding feeling I ever experienced. You told me, on the night Tara was injured and we lost Noah, that I was special, and only I had the ability to choose the man I wanted to be. I want you to know in that moment, and in every moment since, the only man I have ever wanted to be is a man that made you proud. I know I've failed in that endeavor in the past, but rest assured I will spend every day for the rest of the time I have being the best partner, friend, and husband that I have the capacity to be. You changed my life, Talisa Prince. You changed everything about who I am and who I am going to become.
Eugene pulled a ring from his pocket, and Talisa gave a small gasp as she looked at it. It was beautiful, and utterly and completely unique.
After we had our discussion about rings, I was pondering what I could use to make one for you, and I remember you told me about the beautiful set of antique silver spoons that Deanna had from before. How they were a family heirloom brought over from Ireland by her ancestors, and how much you'd love them being you two share an Irish heritage.
He held out the ring so she could examine it. It was made from the intricate handle of the spoon, which was a braided silver, and the Celtic knot that would have sat at the end of the handle now made the centerpiece of the ring.
I take it you're aware of the significance of the Celtic knot.
Yes, it has no beginning or end. It represents eternity and endurance. That nothing truly ends, it's just reborn in a different way.
Exactly.
Eugene slid the ring onto her finger.
And as I considered it, I realized I could think of no more fitting symbol of my love for you. I truly believe my love for you began before I'd ever met you, in an abstract concept that I'd hoped would one day come true, and I assure you I will love you every day for the rest of my days. And though I am not a believer in any sort of life beyond this one, if I happen to find that I am incorrect, I'm entirely certain I will love you in that life as well. You are my one true love, and I will spend every moment of my life aspiring to be worthy of the love and life you've given me.
Talisa smiled and stood on her tiptoes to give him a long, slow kiss.
Husband and wife?
Husband and wife.
He wrapped his arms around her and pulled her close to kiss her again.
So how do you want to go about this thing today, Mr. Porter?
Talisa slid a fried egg from the pan onto Eugene's plate.
We have to decide how we're going to tell everyone. Because I have a feeling when we walk out that front door wearing these rings,
She affectionately spun the ring on her finger as she spoke.
people are going to figure it out pretty quick, and it doesn't seem like something that should get spread around through the rumor mill. It feels like we should make some sort of official announcement.
I have, in fact, been considering that exact conundrum, Dr. Prince Porter, and I have a proposition for you if you'd be so inclined.
I mean, I was a pretty big fan of the last thing you proposed, so go for it.
She shot him a wink, and he grinned in response.
Oh, and by the way, good call on the hyphen thing. I love it. Dr. Prince Porter makes me sound like a superhero or something.
I would venture to guess that probably has to do with the alliteration aspect, which is, of course, common in many comic book tropes. Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, Clark Kent, Lex Luthor.
Technically, his name was actually Alexander.
Talisa sat down across from him at the island with her plate.
But I got you off on a tangent, You were telling me about your newest proposition.
Oh, right. Well, you'll remember, of course, how when we first discussed getting married, we pondered ways in which we could make our union more official, but didn't come up with any concrete solutions.
So you're saying you've thought of something in the interim?
Potentially. I was reflecting on the new society we are in the process of building and the proposed laws and charters we discussed at our last meeting, and it got me thinking. Keeping records is one of the most important parts of ensuring a culture and society endure. When we first arrived here in Alexandria, something as simple as knowing the date was grounding and made us feel as if we were connected again. So my thought was, maybe we need to start keeping records of significant life events again. Things such as births, deaths.
And marriages?
Yes, indeed.
He winked at her and raised his coffee cup in agreement as he took a sip. She grinned.
I think that's an amazing idea, Eugene. And you're completely right. Records like that are a huge part of future generations knowing who we were and what we did here. I know Deanna had a lot of ledgers in her office for that express purpose back in the day. They're probably still there. I could get started on recording things today.
Oh, I wasn't intending to insinuate that you should feel obligated to take over the archival duties for the entire community.
No, I want to. I actually love stuff like that, keeping records and stuff. And I've been looking for some way to contribute. There hasn't really been much call for a psychiatrist lately, outside of my meetings with Negan.
Your meetings with him are a profoundly significant contribution.
Thanks, haircut.
She leaned across the table to kiss him as she got up and brought her plate to the sink.
But I still like the idea of another job to keep me busy.
Then I suppose our first course of action should be to see if the other council members are available for an impromptu meeting today.
A few hours later, the two of them made their way down the sidewalk towards Michonne's home. Talisa took a deep, calming breath, and as she did, Eugene reached over and took her hand in his.
There's absolutely nothing to be anxious about. We're not asking for their permission or approval for anything. We're married, whether they like it or not. We just want to make an official record of it. Considering you are offering to do all the work, I can't see any logical scenario in which they'd take issue with it.
I know. It's not that. I'm not nervous per se. I'm just antsy. We're about to officially announce our marriage for the first time. It's a big deal. I'm also a little worried about Michonne. Losing Rick is still so raw.
Eugene stopped and turned, cupping her face in his hands.
I love how much you care about the feelings of the people around you, and I am continually in awe of your kind and beautiful heart. But this is our moment. It's a happy one, and after everything we've been through, we deserve to acknowledge it. I'm sure Michonne will not only understand that, but encourage that.
You're right. I sure do love you, haircut.
And I love you.
He gave her a quick, soft kiss before they turned and walked the last few feet to Michonne's home. They climbed the steps and knocked on the door, and after a moment, Michonne answered it.
Hey guys, come on in.
She was still more quiet and somber than Talisa was used to seeing her. But ever since she'd started going out with Daryl to search for Rick, it seemed she'd gotten enough of her spark back to at least function rather normally. They followed her to dining room where Gabriel and Aaron were already seated at the table. Talisa saw through the open doors behind them that Judith was entertaining Gracie with her dolls on the floor in the living room. She and Eugene took seats across from the two men, and Michonne sat at the head of the table.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt your day.
No worries. The girls love when we get them together to play. And when a member of the council says something like emergency council meeting, we tend to make it a priority.
Talisa shot a look over at Eugene.
You called it an emergency meeting?
I believed I used the words impromptu and time-sensitive, not emergency. But I can see how that may have been misconstrued.
It's not an emergency. Everything is fine. More than fine, actually. But Eugene and I have some news to share that we want to tell the council formally before it starts rattling around the gossip chain.
Aaron looked between the two of them with a knowing smile.
Oh yeah? I'm guessing Judith, Gracie, and new baby Grimes might be adding a new playmate in the next year then?
What?
Talisa looked at him in confusion and then realized what he meant.
Oh, no, not for a while at least. We're being very conscientious on that front. But
She looked over at Eugene, who reached over and took her hand.
we kinda got married last night.
There was a momentary pause as all three people looked at them in surprise, and then there was an eruption of noise. Aaron gave a cheer of happiness as Gabriel began to clap in celebration. Talisa turned her eyes to Michonne and was relieved to see what appeared to be a genuine smile on her face. She stood and opened her arms for Talisa, who got up and hugged her immediately.
I'm so happy for you.
So tell us, how did it happen?
Gabriel asked with a grin as they all sat back down.
Well, I proposed the idea to Talisa approximately 3 weeks ago, on my birthday. She accepted my proposal, and we decided we wanted to have some sort of formal moment to mark the occasion that included rings.
All three people looked down now at the rings they both wore and smiled again. Michonne shot an amused look in Eugene's direction.
So that's why you asked for one of the pieces of Deanna's silver set. I thought you were going to melt it down for some sort of experiment.
What's yours made of, Eugene? That's a unique pattern.
Gabriel cocked his head to see it better.
A bullet casing. One of the casings from the final showdown with Negan.
He lifted his hands so they could see it, and Talisa could tell from the looks on all three of their faces that there was no need to explain the symbolism to them.
That's a beautiful sentiment. I know I speak for everyone here when I say we are truly happy for you both. You are a wonderful couple, and we count ourselves lucky to have you as part of our community.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. We feel lucky to have you too, which is one of the reasons we wanted to make sure we told you about this formally.
One of the reasons?
Yes. We were also hoping to run another objective by you that we've been discussing, and we believe that while it will have immediate benefits for us personally, it will also benefit the community as a whole significantly in the long run.
All right, so what is this secondary objective?
When we decided to get married, we had a few different discussions on what that even meant in this new world, and how we could go about making it feel more official and binding. We thought about having you marry us, Gabriel.
She shot him a look.
But due to Eugene's distinctly atheistic ideologies,
I think I'd more define myself as hovering somewhere in limbo between atheist and highly skeptical agnostic at this point.
Talisa looked over at him in surprise.
really?
He nodded.
Well, either way, being that we're both in a distinctly skeptical place as far as religion is concerned, using it to validate our marriage felt very disingenuous.
I understand that.
In the end, we decided on the rings, because rings are a great symbol to anyone who meets us. But then Eugene had another brilliant idea.
I'm not entirely sure of the brilliance of the idea. I simply pointed out that another way of validating our marriage could be to have an official record of it. And that if we are truly committing to building a functioning society that has longevity, it may behoove us to begin keeping records of major life events.
Huh. You know that is a really good idea. I can't believe we've never discussed it before. And Deanna has all those empty ledgers and that heavy parchment paper she got to write out laws and charters on. There's no reason we couldn't make up a marriage certificate for you guys.
I was thinking we should make official certificates, but also keep ledgers with dates that are organized by date and event. You know, marriage certificates, birth certificates.
Her eyes shifted quickly to Michonne and back before she spoke again.
Death certificates. We could even do adoption certificates if you want. Wouldn't you like to have a legal record on file saying Gracie is yours, Aaron?
It would be nice.
Seeing as you seem to have this thing planned out, I take it you're applying for the job?
Yeah, I guess I am, if that's okay with you all.
Fine by me. All in favor of Talisa Prince.
It's actually Talisa Prince Porter now.
Aaron shot her an appreciative smile.
All in favor of Mrs. Talisa Prince Porter officially taking the role of archivist and administrator for the settlement of Alexandria, say aye.
The four of them said aye in unison, and then Michonne turned to her.
All of Deanna's things are still down in her office. You're welcome to work down there, or take what you need back to your own place.
Thank you. All right then, if there's no other business to discuss, I motion for the conclusion of this meeting.
I second the motion.
Third.
Motion passes. Thanks for coming, everyone.
A few hours later, Talisa looked up as she heard someone coming down the stairs. She was in Deanna's basement office, seated at her large work table with papers and ledgers spread out around her. There was something cathartic about being back here where she and Deanna had spent so many hours creating ideas for how the future would look. Michonne stuck her head in the door and smiled.
How's it going?
Good. I've created birth, marriage, and death certificates, about 24 each, and filled in the ones I could. Then I'm also logging each of the events in their own ledger as well. I decided to put births and adoptions in the same book and just have markers to show which category. The death certificates and ledgers are the biggest category by far.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Michonne walked over and picked up one of the certificates sitting next to Talisa. She smiled again as she read it.
This document is to certify that Talisa Jeanette Prince Porter and Eugene Herman Porter were married on December 12, 2013, in the settlement of Alexandria, Virginia.
He pointed out that we just missed out on having a truly epic anniversary by 1 year. And I reminded him that's because he decided to be a defecting jackass. Not that we probably gotten married that fast anyway, but it's the principle of the thing.
Michonne chuckled appreciatively, and Talisa hesitantly pulled out a second piece of paper from the pile and pushed it towards her.
I thought maybe you'd want to have this? If you want to, you just have to put a date on it. I know you guys probably never did anything official, but that didn't make it any less real.
Michonne looked down at the marriage certificate and smiled, running her fingertips across Rick's name and then wiping a tear from her eye. She picked up the pen and then looked back at Talisa.
You've got the calendar out, right? So you can calculate the dates for all this stuff?
Yep.
Talisa indicated to Deanna's movable calendar that she'd updated each year with a log of events.
Can you tell me that date of that trip Rick and I took last year? The one where we found all the guns at the military base?
Sure thing.
Talisa flipped back through the calendar.
December 19th, 2012.
Michonne scribbled it on the date line and then handed it back to Talisa.
A very good month to get married in.
Talisa shot her a wink and Michonne smiled appreciatively, but then her smile faltered as she looked quickly back down at the floor.
Did you make him a death?
No,
Talisa put a hand gently on her arm.
not until you're ready for that. That ball is entirely in your court. I did make an adoption certificate for you, for both Judith and Carl, though.
She slid them across the desk for her to look at.
Made the dates the same, the day you all got to Alexandria. Hope that's okay.
Michonne looked up at her with a watery smile.
It's perfect.
I also decided to make some stuff for the other communities. Hope that's all right. I just figured when they find out we're doing this, they're going to want something similar, so I got a head start on it. Marriage certificate for Jerry and Nabila, and for Glenn and Maggie for her to fill out however she wants. Birth certificate for Herschel. Deanna has more than enough supplies to last all 3 communities' years as far as this is concerned, and I'm sure getting more probably won't be that hard either. It's not like they're in high demand.
Heck, by the time we need more, your husband will probably have figured out how to manufacture it here.
Talisa grinned.
Man, I really do love hearing him called that. You're heading out again tomorrow, right? To meet up with Daryl?
Yeah, we're gonna head down closer to the shoreline, see if anything got washed out to sea.
Gotcha. Well, Eugene and I volunteered to take a shift here with Judith, so is there anything we need to know?
She's on a kick where she won't eat anything green, and she's gotten really attached to Daisy, the sow that always comes over to the fence to beg for scraps at the barn, so she's become very anti-pork chops, bacon, anything pig-related.
Got it. No green, no pigs.
Thanks, Talisa.
Michonne gave her hand a quick squeeze before heading back up the stairs. About an hour later, Talisa left the workshop and headed back towards her own home as the sun was setting.
Hey, Talisa, wait up.
She turned and saw that Rosita and Tara were walking up the road towards her from the direction of their home.
What gives?
What do you mean?
Eugene left a note on our door that said to come over for dinner at 6:30, said he's making lasagna, and you guys had something you wanted to tell us.
Talisa grinned in understand and looped an arm through each of her friends as they continued walking towards her house.
Guess you'll just have to come along and find out. You know, I feel like I need to lodge some sort of complaint.
Talisa pointed out from her spot next to Eugene in the wagon.
I lived in the kingdom for almost a year. It seems completely unceremonious for them to just send a note saying, "Hey, we need your apartment for new people. Can you come get the rest of your crap this weekend?"
The counterpoint to your argument could be that they are going out of their way to be considerate, seeing as they could have easily boxed it all up and sent it with any number of transports between our communities, but they chose to give you the opportunity to pack it yourself and make sure everything is secure and you receive all your items of value. Not to mention, this trip affords us the opportunity to have our long-discussed but as yet unexecuted first double date with Jerry and Nabila.
I suppose that's true.
Eugene turned the corner that would lead them down the road to the gates of the kingdom. When they pulled up to the gates, Eugene waved up at the guard on the tower to the side.
Eugene Porter and Talisa Prince, Porter of Alexandria, here. We request entry on the grounds of her being summoned to collect the remainder of her personal belongings to make room for newcomers to your settlement.
You got it.
The guard motioned to the man on the ground. Talisa thought she saw a small smirk on his face as he did, but it was gone as soon as it had appeared. So she decided she probably imagined it, and even if she didn't, she was sure it had to do with something inside the walls that was of no significance to her. As they continued down the main thoroughfare, she looked around, noting something strange.
Where is everyone? It's just after 6. People should be all over these streets, coming and going from work and dinner.
They rounded the corner into what was considered the main square, and her question was immediately answered as there was a cacophony of cheering so loud it startled the horses slightly. 2 of the members of the kingdom ran over and took the reins, steadying them as everyone clapped and cheered. Talisa realized with a start that it wasn't only the people she knew from the kingdom in front of her. She saw Enid, Maggie, Jesus, and Alden standing to one side, and many of her fellow Alexandrians standing on the other.
How the hell did you beat us here?
She asked as they hopped out of the wagon and walked over to them.
Daryl knows all the back ways, and we've been planning this for 2 weeks.
Talisa looked over Tara's shoulder and saw Daryl standing near the porch of one of the buildings, looking awkward and uncomfortable like he always did when he was forced to be in a crowd.
Hey you, long time no see.
She walked over to give him a hug. With all the searching he and Michonne had been doing, she'd only seen him once for a few minutes since Rick's death.
Yeah, I know. But I wasn't going to miss this.
What is this?
This, my dearest Talisa,
Ezekiel proclaimed loudly from his spot near the front of the crowd.
is a gathering of all those who love you and were most anxious to share in the joy of you 2 exceptional people choosing to be wed.
Which is to say, welcome to your surprise wedding reception, bitches.
Everyone cheered loudly again.
Are you absolutely sure this is necessary?
For the 100th time, yes. Now stop fussing so I can do this clasp.
After revealing the plan for the evening, their friends had immediately whisked Eugene and Talisa off in different directions to get dressed, and Talisa had been enduring hair and makeup for almost 45 minutes.
I didn't even wear a white dress when we got married.
Look, there aren't many things that can look like how they used to in this world, but this is one of them.
Carol said from her spot, leaning against the door frame.
They've actually got a dark room here for developing film, which means you can get dressed up and take some pictures to remember this day.
And believe me, you want to. I'd give anything to have even one picture of Glenn for Herschel.
All right. I get the idea.
And there you go.
Maggie stepped back and turned to Talisa so she could see herself in the mirror.
Wow, it's beautiful. I can't believe how well it fits.
There's a whole bunch of old clothing in the wardrobes at Barrington House. We pilfered and distributed everything that was practical years ago, but I remembered that this was still hanging in the back of one and thought it would be perfect.
Well, you were right.
They had put her in a flowy floor-length white dress with bell sleeves. It wasn't particularly fancy. It was made of a light gauzy cotton and reminded Talisa of something you might have seen a girl at Woodstock wearing back in the day, with a crown of dandelions in her hair. Talisa's hair had been brushed out and pinned, so it fell in soft waves, and she had to admit she felt very soft and beautiful.
All right, let's go meet up with Eugene so I can take some pictures.
Enid said happily, waving the camera she was holding in the air. They walked out of Talisa's former apartment, which Ezekiel and Carol had assured her could stay exactly how it was for whenever she wanted to visit. The packing up thing had purely been a ruse to get them there, and across the compound to Jerry and Nabila's house, where Eugene and Jerry were just coming out. Eugene was wearing brown dress slacks with a plain white button-down shirt and an emerald green vest that looked to be some sort of brocade material.
Hey, handsome.
Hey, yourself. And might I add, you look entirely exquisite, even if I do say so myself.
You're the only one I want saying it, so that works for me.
She stood on her tiptoes to give him a kiss.
Oh my god, that's so cute. Don't move.
The picture-taking continued for over a half hour, and as exasperating as she'd found the idea at first, Talisa had to admit that when she thought about the idea of having photos to put up in their home, she was glad they did it. Afterwards, they headed back to the square where tables had been set up and enjoyed a delicious meal with their friends. As the meal was winding down, Ezekiel stood and tapped his fork against his glass, calling for quiet.
We have had a wonderful evening celebrating these two wonderful people. Now I would like to offer the floor to anyone who may have a few words of support and encouragement to give them.
Everyone was silent for a few seconds, and then Rosita stood, shooting them all a slightly nervous smile.
Guess I should probably go first. I've known Eugene the longest out of everyone here. I met him in Dallas just a few months after everything went bad, and to be honest, he was the most annoying person I'd ever met.
Several people laughed appreciatively, including Eugene.
I never really got Eugene. I could see how smart he was, and I knew he was a special guy in that way, but I didn't really understand him. What made him tick? And with time, I started to see that nobody else really did either. It was like Eugene had his own little world that he lived in, and we just couldn't figure out the code to get in.
Rosita looked up at them both now and smiled.
But then we got to Alexandria, and from the second he met Talisa, everybody could see it. She understood his world, she understood him, and she liked him for exactly who he was, better or worse. It's not his world anymore, it's theirs. They've built this whole beautiful, crazy life together that I'm not sure the rest of us always understand, but they understand it. And that's beautiful. So here's to the Porters and their crazy, unique, unconventional love.
They all raised their glasses in toast, and as Rosita sat, Aaron stood slowly, giving the crowd a nervous smile.
Well, I guess I should represent the other side of this love story then. I'm pretty sure I'm the last person left who knew Talisa before Eugene came into her life. While she was definitely always her own unique person, her world was one she opened to anyone who wanted to come in. She is a kind, gentle, loving person who will always go out of her way to make others feel loved and accepted, and I've always admired that about her. Yet for all of her amazing qualities, when she first came to Alexandria, she was closed off. She loved us, but it was easy to see that she'd built walls around herself after everything the world had thrown at her. When she met Eugene, well, watching from the outside, it was like he just went barreling through all her walls like a wrecking ball.
It's how it looked from the inside, too.
Several people laughed.
Eugene opened her up in a way I'd never seen before. And I'll admit, there was some time in the last year when that wasn't always a good thing. But they figured it out. They found their way back to each other. And I think that's because they were meant to. From the day they met, these two people were destined for each other. And I think that's something worth celebrating. The idea that sometimes good is meant to prevail, even in the middle of all the bad.
Hear, hear.
Ezekiel raised his glass as others followed suit. The toasts continued on for a few more minutes, and by the end, Talisa looked over at Eugene and smiled, feeling full of warmth and happiness for both her friends and her husband. Ezekiel stood again and looked over at her.
Now the beautiful bride has seen fit to grace us with a song.
Talisa stood up and walked around the table to grab her guitar, where it was sitting next to the makeshift dance floor. Ezekiel had posed the idea to her earlier, and she'd loved it.
So, Eugene and I have been having an ongoing discussion on what should be our song. It may surprise many of you to know that my husband is a classic heavy metal aficionado, and the first song that I ever played for him was When the Wild Wind Blows by Iron Maiden.
Which happens to be my all-time favorite song.
But after talking it out, we decided a song about a suicide pact at the end of the world was pretty grim source material to represent our marriage. We thought about time after time, since I kinda already sang that one to him, in this very square in fact.
She winked at him, and several more people laughed.
But that one belongs to Jerry and Nabila, so in the end, Eugene said since I'm the musician, I should just surprise him and pick a song that I think represents us. No pressure or anything. So after doing some research, I found what I think is the perfect one. It's not heavy metal, but it's from the same era as Iron Maiden, so hopefully you like it.
She shot Eugene a wink, and he smiled back as she began to play the first chords of the song Faithfully by Journey. She changed the lyrics slightly from loving a music man ain't always what it's supposed to be to loving a complex man. And as she continued to sing about lovers being apart and rediscovering each other, she saw Eugene wasn't the only one with tears threatening to fall from his eyes. As she played the last few chords, everyone got to their feet and cheered, and Eugene got up from the table to come and sweep her into his arms for a kiss. An hour or so later, Eugene stood at the edge of the dance floor, watching happily as his wife danced to an upbeat song with several of the other women, including Enid, Maggie, and Michonne, who'd been drug onto the dance floor a few minutes earlier, against her will, but now seemed to be enjoying herself.
Congrats, man.
Daryl walked up next to him and joined him watching the people dancing.
Thank you. Seeing as I am well aware that my previous decisions have given you a less than stellar opinion of me, especially where my worthiness to be your partner is concerned, your well wishes mean quite a lot.
That stuff's in the past. You've made up for it this past year. And either way, she chose you. She forgave you. So it's done. Did you ever hurt her again?
Daryl shot him a look.
I'll kill you.
Completely and entirely understood.
The two of them stood there quietly for a moment before Eugene spoke again.
Daryl, I'm aware you and I have never reached what I would classify as a friendship, but given our year of working in close collaboration, I was wondering if we've achieved a level of camaraderie where I could ask you a question.
Man, does it ever get old using about 5,000 words to say something that only needs like 5?
Daryl shot him a smirk and shook his head.
Sure, Eugene. Ask away.
What is it about her? I assure you I do not ask out of any misplaced jealousy or territorial nature. Firstly, because I know your affection of her is entirely brotherly, and secondly, because even if I was inclined to be territorial, I'm fully aware you could end me in 5 seconds flat in a myriad of ways.
You're damn right I could.
Daryl agreed with an amused smile.
But I am genuinely curious. What is it about Talisa that makes you so fiercely protective of her?
Daryl didn't answer for several seconds. Just when Eugene was beginning to think he wouldn't at all, he sighed slightly and crossed his arms.
She just reminds me of somebody else, I guess. She was a good person, too. Kind and genuine. Always saw the good in people, but she wasn't soft. She told you your shit how it was. She wasn't mean, but she didn't sugarcoat it. You know?
A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth.
She even used to sing all the damn time, just like Talisa.
Maggie's sister.
Daryl looked up at him in surprise.
I was present when you brought her out of that hospital. Abraham, Rosita, and I were the ones who provided transport for Glenn and Maggie.
All right, I forgot about that.
I could see by the impact her death had on all of you that she was a truly special individual.
Yeah, she was.
Daryl looked back out at Talisa dancing.
And so's she.
In that, we are wholly and entirely in agreement.
When I Fall is a work of fiction based on AMC's The Walking Dead. Any characters not created by the author are the property of said company. The story will continue in the next chapter.